I'm Jake.
I'm Colin.
You're watching Gas Guzzlers.
And this is the Genesis G80 Electrified.
Let's get into it. Looking at the exterior of the Electrified G80, it's real imposing. It almost has a monolithic quality to it. That's in part thanks to how long it is and how broad it is, but it's also really tall. Now, at 5.5 inches of ground clearance, it's in line with other sedans. However, as you get in, you notice that it feels taller than that and somehow more substantial. That's because the floor of the G80 is actually raised to contain the battery pack, so it's actually really thick. But that feeling of verticality isn't the only element of this exterior that feels elevated.
Whether it's the inverted G-matrix pattern, which hides the charge port within the grille, or the tasteful dashes of chrome along the side of the vehicle, it's clear the G80 has style in spades. This Verbier matte white paint looks great, but I would personally go with the Halcyon green. Either color looks great with these 19-inch wheels. 19 inches is a relatively small wheel in today's luxury market, but by decreasing rim size, Genesis can have taller sidewalls, which provides a much more comfortable ride. And it's not just pretty, this car has true luxury chops.
And thanks to the soft closed doors, you just give the door a gentle tug, and the vehicle does the rest.
Then at night, the show gets even better. With LED lighting encompassing the vehicle, complemented by daring puddle lights, the G80 illuminates even the darkest roads. With all this road presence, it's outright surprising when the G80 pulls up and is completely silent. We're used to seeing sedans with styling this bold being packaged with V8s or even 12 cylinders, but the electric powertrain fits the G80. It keeps the ride even quieter than it already is. Combined with the active noise cancellation, road noise is nearly eliminated from the cabin.
And that's not all the good things on the exterior. If you continue to the back, it looks really sporty back here.
Wait, Colin, I'm thinking.
Oh, wow, that's surprising.
Yeah, shut up. I'm thinking, this car, right? It's a great car. We really like the car, but I mean, how much does it cost? What good's a car if it's $1 million?
See, Jake, I don't know. I can't find the window sticker.
You lost the window sticker? You lost the price tag for this car?
I guess I did.
I guess that means it's free then, isn't it?
Jake, you just made a cringy joke. You know what that means.
No, I don't know. We make cringy jokes here all the time.
Gas Guzzler entities?
Who are these guys?
Take them to the
Colin,
shadow realm.
you gotta explain this. Hey, this was not in the script. This was not in the script.
To answer that question, this vehicle is going to cost you about $80,000, more or less, depending on features. And of course, right now, you can see Jake is starting to occupy about all 10 cubic feet of storage space back there. Get in there. Get in there. You see power on the key, and you have power on the trunk.
Hey guys, Jake here. Colin and the entities put me back in the trunk. I don't know where we're going at. I need to get some help, but in the meantime, the one thing that would make this situation a lot better, other than getting out, of course, would be if you liked and subscribed to Gas Guzzlers for more weekly automotive content. I think we're coming to a stop. I gotta go. All right, let's keep going.
Now, I know what you're saying. 10.8 cubic feet is not a lot of storage space, but they need that extra room to fit the batteries. And of course, if you pull down this right here, you get a little ski pass. You get a little ski pass through that gives you more room to store longer items. So far, we've been pretty glowing about this car, and that's for a good reason. This really is something special. But there are a few glaring omissions, but when you take a closer look, they start to make more sense. Does it feel a little dark back here? The electric Genesis G80 doesn't have a sunroof, and that's weird because the gasoline-powered one does. So what gives? Did they just forget to put one in? That's because the sunroof actually decreases headroom, and of course with the elevated battery pack causing the floor to be higher, they just could not fit a sunroof in here and maintain enough headroom. Don't think Genesis is gonna let that roof space go to waste. You can get an optional solar roof, which is gonna give you about 700 miles of range per year, and it'll also help charge both the high voltage and low voltage batteries.
Another odd missing thing, how about no heated seats in the rear? And one final missing thing, how about a horn? Well, it's not actually missing, but it's non-operational in this particular unit, which has proven to be a problem every now and then.
So Jake, how many electric cars have we reviewed now?
Enough that the name gas guzzlers doesn't make a lot of sense for our channel anymore.
That's true, but how many have we criticized for not having the charging port be accessible from both sides?
Every single one except for the Nissan Leaf.
Well, Jake, observe.
Ah, very cool. But what are the specs?
So this thing has a 87.2 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery pack. You're gonna get about 280 miles of range. Now, if you check online, you're gonna find a few different numbers. This is a Korean car that was unveiled in Shanghai, and they're a little more generous with their estimates than the EPA.
Yeah, but you know what? I think the EPA rating has been pretty spot on with this vehicle. We've been getting around 280 miles of range with it. Some other journalists have reported getting a bit over that. It's real impressive the range they got out of this, considering it's such a huge all-wheel drive vehicle.
Yeah, even more impressive, you're gonna get about 350 kilowatt fast charging. So you can go from 10% to 80% in about 22 minutes. Another cool feature you have, since this is a Hyundai Kia Motor Group's car, you are gonna get vehicle to load.
You might have a phone battery bank that's 20 watt hours. What if that battery bank was 87 kilowatt hours? That is what vehicle to load enables.
And unlike other vehicles where you just take something and plug it into, say, a standard household outlet, what makes vehicle to load different is just how much power you can charge with.
Yeah, it can output up to 3.6 kilowatts of power. So you can plug in full out household appliances into this thing and run them. That is a super unique feature.
Inside the G80, Genesis has honed their craft by dividing the interior into two distinct areas. The panoramic area represents everything the driver sees, including the 12.3-inch gauge cluster and the centrally mounted 14.5-inch widescreen infotainment system. Genesis has also considered the driver's view, reducing the A-pillar size and lowering the dashboard as much as possible in order to give the driver the best view of the road ahead. The control area represents everything the driver uses to enhance their driving experience. The glass-top rotary gear selector feels premium, and the color even changes with the ambient lighting. The Genesis integrated controller allows for the driver to write instead of typing on a keyboard, and the buttons all around the vehicle make for an intuitive yet minimalistic system.
Let's talk interior. Here in the driver's seat, you will find a wealth of luxury. First of all, the seat is extremely supportive. It's both heated and cooled and has a massaging function. Love the Napa leather. It's got a real crisp feel to it, and you have a heated steering wheel right in front of you. It's got just the right girth to it. Really appreciate that touch. And even better are these paddles on the back. These paddles allow you to adjust your regenerative braking in real time. So you can go from a completely free coasting vehicle, just like you're in an internal combustion vehicle, all the way to one pedal driving full regen that will bring you all the way to the stop using these paddles right here. One other interior comment, I want to talk about quality here. A while back, I drove the Genesis G80 SUV, and I was not very impressed by the interior fit and finish. However, in this vehicle, the story is very different. Everything in here feels great and really well put together. From the knurled knobs to the Napa leather right here, to the suede headliner, all the materials feel good and they feel well assembled. Not only is it visually interesting and well put together, it's also eco-friendly. Right up here, this cool wood finish, it's not made of some endangered tree that's been chopped down. It's made from recycled furniture. It really is a well thought out cabin experience.
Let's talk about the rear seating area in the Genesis, and you can really feel the Asian inspiration here. Of course, this is a Korean vehicle unveiled in Shanghai, and in Asia, the most important part of the car is the rear passenger area, and you really feel that back here. You have these premium Napa leather seats. Now, a lot of electric vehicles are moving towards vegan leather and other options, but not here. You have real leather, but you can get natural dye like you have here. So the dye is made out of more real components and not any synthetic chemicals that might have nasty side effects. You also have your own climate controls back here, and of course you have vents. If they did not, that would be a huge downside, but you do have them. You also have the rear shade on the window. Press this button on this massive armrest and a shade will go up. Now you do have the side shades. These are manual. It'd be nice if they were power, but those are manual on so many cars, so it's not that big of a knock. Now, legroom is not the greatest back here. It's certainly acceptable, don't get me wrong. But when you see this vehicle, you'd expect there to be a lot more legroom. Now, one nice thing is you can control the position of this seat with these buttons. So you can move it forwards, backwards, you can change the lean. Love to see that. One last thing I want to talk about, the center area. I've already mentioned the button. Of course, you have cup holders here that have real nubs, not those little rubberized ones, real nubs that can retract into the cup holder, as well as this openable compartment back here, which has some charging amenities. I have to say, I think the rear seating area is where this car shines.
It is now time to talk infotainment. So let's get to it. Colin, what we have here, 14.5-inch screen?
Yep.
All right, so this is your screensaver right here. If you know what city that is, tell us in the comments. We've been trying to figure it out. No luck so far. So first person to figure it out is gonna get, what should we give them, Colin? A like in the comments?
Sure.
We can't give you anything. We
That's
don't have
all
any
we
money.
have.
Don't ask for money. Okay, going in, here is your Genesis menu. It's pretty much unchanged from other Genesis products, which is a good thing, right? This is a real high quality widescreen format that we have come to expect from them. I'm gonna show you a few of the key features right here. First of all, EV mode. This is a very important screen. You can see right here, it's gonna show you how far you have and where the nearest charger is. Importantly, if you turn on your AC, it's gonna show you how much range you're losing. You see how much range you're losing because of your AC. And this car has some interesting climate controls that are gonna help you extend that range. For example, you can push a button and it's gonna direct all of the AC energy onto the driver only. Real cool feature there. Now I'm going to use the dial knob. Colin prefers to use the touchscreen. I like using the knob because I find that fingerprints show up really well on this screen. So I use the little dial knob here. But the dial knob is for more than just navigation. It also lets you write. So if we go to the map right here and we're going to close this and we're going to try and navigate somewhere. So why don't we go to search? We're going to try to go to search.
This is why I prefer the touchscreen.
This is why Colin prefers the touchscreen. I almost have it. I almost have it. There we go. Okay, so now I can write here. I can write. You can see as I'm writing. Okay, that was supposed to be an H. Okay, it usually works better than this. There we go. See, it picked up. I have an S there. So there you go. That, and I can delete just like that. So that's kind of a nice function. From there, and one last thing I want to show you is just some kind of fun stuff they have. They have the valet mode, so I'll limit the car's performance and such when you give it off to a valet so they don't go crash your car. Quiet mode is gonna change the balance and fade so all of the volume's up here in the front of the car, and it's gonna quiet everything down so your passengers are nice and cozy. With that, Colin, I think I covered everything here in the main screen. That's kind of fun. Why don't you show us the deal with CarPlay here?
So of course this is wired CarPlay. You need to plug it into a wire. But I'm gonna use the touchscreen here because see how much easier that is.
Wait, Colin, I just gotta get to my Zoom meeting real quick. Sorry. Let me just... There we go. The dial's fun.
As you can see, the dial is not the most practical. It takes a lot more time than just simply using your finger. But the nice thing you have here with the wider screen is you can access something in addition to CarPlay. So if you scroll here, you can get a map, you can get your battery. So you can have the CarPlay screen and something else showing. That's very useful. I think that 14.5-inch screen really just helps for much more functionality. And I have to say, the system overall is really good. I know sometimes we suggest you just kind of live in the realm of CarPlay, but I think Genesis produced a great infotainment system here. This CarPlay looks great, but I think this system here is perfectly fine.
Let's talk gauge cluster real quick because there is some cool stuff going on here. This is a 3D gauge cluster. You might see those two red dots at the top. I cannot see those, but the camera can see those because that is a sensor bar that's watching your eyes to produce a 3D effect on the gauge cluster. So on the gauge cluster, it looks like that center portion kind of pops out at you and the gauges fade into the background. I actually really like it because it makes it easier to understand where each piece of information is and what I'm looking for. So I actually quite like it. Colin's not as much of a fan, but those sensors at the top are going to track your eyes to maintain that 3D effect. Now, to maintain or to operate, I should say, the system, we are going to use this dial right here. And if I focus the camera back right here onto our screen, you'll see you can slide through a pretty typical customization right here. It's not super customizable like sub gauge clusters are, but this gives you all the decent trip information, charging information, etc. that you need. Particularly this page is kind of cool. You know, all the G80 Electrifieds are all-wheel drive, so you can see which wheel is getting how much power.
Jake, this is an electric car. You know what we have to do.
Accelerate at a perfectly reasonable, normal, safe speed?
What? No, we have to floor it.
Oh, go for it. I gotta say, Genesis really nailed the power delivery on this vehicle. I think they got it exactly right.
I have to agree. I mean, it's not as exciting as some other electric vehicles, but that's not a bad thing. It's very smooth, and it still gives you that confidence you have with an electric vehicle.
It's the Goldilocks zone. It's not too rip your face off fast. It's not slow. It's just a perfect smooth wave of torque that I think most buyers of the G80 are really gonna like. But what's even better than that, I think, is the ride of the vehicle is just absolutely sublime. That comes down to two things. So we have these really comfy seats. They are absolutely great in soaking up the bumps, making you feel nice and supported. But the other thing is the Preview electronic control suspension, and that's a pretty cool system. It's going to use both the navigation and it's going to use a camera up here in the front to scan the road ahead, and it's going to adjust the damping force of the suspension in real time. So if it sees a pothole coming up or a speed bump, it's going to adjust the suspension, you know, hundreds of times a second to make it absolutely perfect. I think it's a real neat system, but I want to jump back to the powertrain actually, so why don't we pull over and talk about that real quick?
Sounds good.
If you pop the hood on the G80, you'll find one of two electric motors.
Yeah, no frunk here. And you're saying, what? No frunk? I love my frunk. Well, by taking all of the, you know, air conditioning units and liquids and motors and stuff that would traditionally occupy this dashboard area of a vehicle that has a frunk, and by moving it all into the engine bay, Genesis opens up a lot of space on the inside, and that's going to allow you to have a much more open and airy interior cabin space.
Definitely. Now this vehicle is only available in all-wheel drive, but you're going to get a respectable 365 horsepower and about 516 pound-feet of torque.
And all that power means this thing goes 0 to 60 in 4.9 seconds. And remember, this isn't sold as a sports car or something. This is just a luxury vehicle, and seeing it move that fast is mind-blowing given the size of this vehicle. That's if you're in sport mode. Put this thing in eco mode, you're gonna be doing it a lot slower. I don't wanna say it's dreary, but it just smooths out the acceleration a lot, and it's gonna get you some more range, but you're gonna move a bit slower. Keep it in sport comfort mode though. But with all of that said, we have to talk about the disconnector actuator system, because you mentioned this car is all-wheel drive, but it doesn't have to be. You see, all-wheel drive, it's not very efficient, right? And electric cars are all about range. So to extend the range, this vehicle can automatically and seamlessly change itself into two-wheel drive by disconnecting a motor from the drivetrain. That is a pretty cool system that's going to get you a couple more precious miles of range.
So now let's talk about the comfort of the Genesis, and I have to say, now that Jake's moved to the back, I find it a lot more comfortable up here. Now, driving this car, you will feel its weight a little bit. This thing weighs just over 5,000 pounds, which is very heavy, about 500 heavier than the gas model. But despite its weight, I don't think it's too bad. Definitely feel it a little on the turns, but the ride is just so smooth. Jake, how are you feeling back there?
Yeah, you know, I agree with what you said. I think given the weight of this thing, they did the best they could. Definitely feel that that adjustable dampening in the suspension as we're going over a lot of these potholes. But then when we get in the corners, I'm not too thrown around. The car does a good job of adjusting to that. Overall, I'd have to say they've given the passengers back here a real pleasant experience, even with your terrible driving, Colin.
Hey. So let's talk about highway driving. In the Genesis, you're going to find the Highway Driver Assist system, and this is one of the best semi-autonomous systems on the market.
Yeah, you know, it really is great. We've seen with a lot of other systems that they disengage randomly occasionally. They have trouble, especially with tighter turns on the highway, but that is not the case with Highway Driver Assist 2. It's a real competent system, definitely one of the best-in-class semi-autonomous systems on the road today.
So to turn the system on, all you have to do is press the cruise control and the lane centering button, and voila, it turns on. Now we do have to note, unlike in some of the other Highway Driver Assist systems, this one does not have the auto lane change.
That's true, but Genesis does throw in tons of other safety features to complement this highway driver system. So for example, you have blind spot collision prevention. So a lot of cars will alert you if there's someone in your blind spot and you try to merge. This car will straight up prevent that collision from happening by adjusting the wheel and such. Really great feature there. It has safe exit assist. If it detects that there's a car coming from behind you, it's gonna engage the child lock so you can't open the door and get hit in the door that way. And of course, you have all the other features you'd expect, like rear cross traffic alert.
And I have to say, Jake, they really went above and beyond with the blind spot monitoring and the collision warning. This is a very outstanding safety system.
Yeah, it's far and above what a lot of other brands put in as their standard safety suite. But with that said, you know, the standard safety suite is only a small part of highway cruising. I think this is where the Genesis G80
really shines. I mean, first of all, it's got the perfect amount of passing power. It's not too much, not too little. It's a real smooth, torquey wave to it. It really feels good to pass people in this vehicle. It's real nice and quiet in here. If you feel the door sills, you'll feel how thick the padding is and that rubber tubing is to keep out that noise, vibration, and harshness. And of course, that suspension just soaks up the expansion joints. There is a bit of an interesting quirk with the range estimates in this car. I find tend to fluctuate around a lot as I'm driving. So it'll be like, you have 80 miles, now you have 90 miles, now you have 85. And it does contribute a lot to range anxiety as you're driving. It's not all that confidence inspiring, but other than that, real good highway driving kind of setup here in the G80 Electrified.
And Jake, I have to agree with that range jumping around. It did just happen. We got on at about 60 miles of range and we're already down to 55 and we haven't been on here that long. But with all this talk about the semi-autonomous stuff, we have to talk about the automatic parking system.
Now your car may park itself, plenty of vehicles do that, but this vehicle will do it with no one in there. You may notice right now neither Colin or I are in the G80 Electrified, and it is indeed parking itself. I'm just holding a button here on the key fob and voila, let's see if it does this without hitting anything. Editor, if you can speed up the video here, that'd be dandy. Okay, we're slowing the video down here because it looks like the car is going to get it. It actually did that in a pretty reasonable amount of time. Might pull forward one more time. But this is a really handy feature if, you know, you're trying to get in a tight spot. Okay, yeah, it's pulling forward, do it once more. It is not the best driver in the world, but it's, what do you say, Colin? It's decent.
Yeah, it does the job.
Yeah, yeah. It's really impressive the first time you show it to people, but then like it starts taking a while and sometimes it just parks kind of in random spots. But in this case, it's done an all right job. What would you rate that parking job out of 10, Colin?
I would say, we're gonna give it a 9. It's a little crooked.
A little crooked, but otherwise well within the boundaries. Pretty cool feature. The Genesis G80 Electrified, it's a very good car. In the week we've had this vehicle, we've gotten multiple compliments on the styling. The interior is extremely comfortable with those sublime leather Napa seats. The suspension is also very well tuned in this vehicle, and that electric powertrain whisks you away in sport mode with that 4.9 second to 0-60. It's very fun and great to show off to friends, and there's some great technology here too. Best-in-class infotainment and some of the better highway driving assist features on this vehicle. Colin, I really like it, but for $82,000, we probably would have spec'd this one a bit differently.
I definitely would have spec'd it differently. For a luxury car, not having rear heated seats is a huge downside, and this doesn't have them. Of course, this car is spec'd super weird. I would have gone for the rear heated seats over the soft closed doors, as cool as they are. But personally, I could highly suggest this for a luxury electric vehicle. Now, if you really just want the G80 body shape, personally, I think you should still go with gas. But if you're looking for a luxury electric car, look no further. This is a great option. I mean, it's cheaper than a lot of its competitors, but it still is a great value. Of course, this has been Gas Guzzlers. I've been Colin. That's maybe Jake. And if you like our content, be sure to like and subscribe for weekly automotive videos. We'll see you next time.